In this video, we will be servicing the lubrication system in this 2010 Nissan Xterra. Through the driver's side door, we can pop the hood, and after releasing our secondary safety latch, we can gain access to the engine bay. Inside the engine bay, we want to focus our attention towards the driver's side portion of the engine. Specifically, we are looking for the oil fill location as well as the oil dipstick. The oil fill location is identified by an icon of an oil can, and our dipstick has a yellow ring labeled engine oil. After that, we want to take a look underneath the front end of the vehicle. Taking a look underneath the vehicle, we can see the oil pan as well as the oil pan drain plug. And a little bit different view will give us a little bit better picture of that oil pan as well as the oil pan drain plug. Towards the front of the vehicle, we have a skid plate, and on that skid plate we have an access panel. Through the access panel, we'll be able to reach our oil filter. And we can actually see that oil filter if we kind of look around the outside of the skid plate. And we can remove that access panel with a 10mm wrench. And through that access panel, we have a clear vantage point of our oil filter. We can also see that directly below the oil filter, there is a little funnel or channel for the oil to flow. So we will want to make sure our drip pan is located beneath this channel. And prior to beginning this service, I have installed rhino ramps to give me a little more access under the front of the vehicle. I have installed wheel chocks behind the rear tires. I have set the parking brake, and I have also installed safety stands just in case the rhino ramps fail. Now, since we are switching over to Amsoil from conventional oil, it is highly recommended that we first install some Amsoil engine and transmission flush in the engine. We then want to start the engine and idle it for 10 to 15 minutes. This will allow the engine flush product to begin eating away all of the sludge that has built up inside of the engine over the previous many years. And while that vehicle is idling, we can prepare all of our tools and drip pan so that when we turn the vehicle off, we can immediately drain the oil and remove the filter. And we're going to let that drain until all of the oil is drained out. And we can then remove our oil filter. Now you want to make sure there is a drip pan underneath the location that the oil will go. And I always like to check on the oil filter adapter plate to make sure that the rubber ring came off of the old oil filter, as well as that the adapter plate looks clean and in good condition, and we can clean off any excess oil. I like to compare my old oil filter with my new oil filter just to make sure they look about the same. I also like to verify that the rubber ring came off with the old oil filter and that it is not stuck up in the engine. This one looks good. And we then want to take some new oil and coat our new rubber ring on our new oil filter with a little bit of oil. This will help it seal in the engine better. And we want this to be hand tight. We don't want to over tighten it, or we run the risk of blowing out that rubber ring. And with the filter replaced and our oil drained, we can reinstall our oil plug. And this will need to be tightened between 22 and 29 foot-pounds. And then I can reinstall that access panel. And with everything back together underneath the car, we can remove the oil cap, install a funnel, and install 5.4 quarts of oil. And this vehicle does take Amsoil Signature Series 5W30 motor oil. And we'll check on the side here to make sure that we are putting in a little bit less than a half, since it calls for a little bit less than 5.5 quarts. We can then remove our funnel and recap our oil fill location. And at this point, I like to pick stuff up and lower the vehicle down. This will allow the engine to run for about 20 or 30 seconds. We can then turn off the engine, let the oil drain down for a few minutes, and then check our oil level. And we can see that we are a little bit above the halfway point between our low and full mark on the dipstick. I always like to be just a little bit above that halfway mark, so everything is looking good.